Again.
Hi there. I'm
Hi
glad
there.
you're watching. Thanks for watching us. We appreciate our audience very much.
The title of today's show is Remains to be Seen. And the title doesn't remain to be seen, but
No.
it remains to be seen.
What remains to be seen, darling?
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I suppose anything that remains to be seen isn't part of the present moment. If it were part
That's
of the
true.
present moment, it would be seen. But if
Yeah.
it remains to be seen as a philosophical conjectural element,
Yeah, that's true.
but we're not talking about that kind of remain.
Well, we didn't say it remains to be seen, right? We
Right.
said remains to be seen.
But remains can be a noun.
Remains are a noun when you're talking about the part of you that's left over after the spirit has gone off to heaven, right?
Right. That's what I'm getting at.
Sometimes they even call them cremains if you get cremated.
Remains to be seen. Oh, you have this. Someone like Picasso comes in and takes the ash and makes a painting.
Well, you know, one thing that they have done is to make a jewel
A jewel.
from the cremains. You ship the cremains off to the wherever it is,
Including the jewels of the deceased.
and what
No.
they do is they have a process now whereby they can compress the cremains into a stone, which then can be set in a pendant or a ring.
I'd like
And
that.
one could wear one's beloved on one's finger or
Yeah.
on a chain around one's neck forever,
Wow.
or at least as long as one was around.
Whoa. That's heavy.
It is? No, I don't think it's heavy. I think it's probably quite light. Otherwise, people wouldn't buy it if it weighed down their finger.
But could you just imagine someone doing that and they're out on a date and someone says, "That's a wonderful ring." You see, that's Gloria. And they'd go, "Gloria? Is that a stone?" No, that's my Gloria. And if I marry you and you go, I'll wear you here, and it'll be,
Yeah, that's my Stephen. Yeah.
I don't
Does
know.
seem rather strange,
It
though.
seems weird. But viewings and remains being seen are going to all change. The whole funeral business is going to change.
You know, it might, actually, with Pluto going into Capricorn, and Pluto is all about, rebirth, regeneration, and, of course, the death that precedes it.
Right.
That Pluto probably would be part of the...
Well, I was really touched when we were sitting by the TV a couple of years ago watching Ted Kennedy's funeral.
Mhm.
And I was thinking how interesting it would be if there could be online funerals. So when someone passes and they have relatives in Albuquerque or Japan or
Well, they
China.
could put it on MySpace, maybe, or
But it could
or
be live.
YouTube.
It could be
Oh, live.
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 Yeah.
Hmm.
And people could participate in a funeral,
Interactive.
interactive funerals, and the deceased would be there. And if he was to be or she was to be cremated, they could have a cardboard coffin. You wouldn't need
Well,
wood.
yeah. I mean, that's another whole subject. But I like your idea of the funerals being like shared by distant relatives. I think that's a very interesting thought.
Well, you have relatives you've never met out in Missouri or someplace, or
Yeah,
Minnesota,
yeah,
or something.
yeah,
One of those Midwest M states.
yeah. St. Louis.
Missouri.
She lives in St. Louis.
That's
That was in
Missouri. Yeah,
right.
Missouri. And politically speaking, that is. And it would just be really wonderful, if cousin Thelma or Betty were to pass over, if you could just sort of bring it up on your laptop, and we could sit at her funeral.
Well, you could do it with cams. I mean, you could actually.
Undertakers could do this
Oh, you mean as an undertaking?
as an added
As
thing.
an added attraction
For an
by the
undertaker.
funeral part.
Yeah, and you have an online service, and then people don't have to get in their car and go 3,000 miles.
Right. Or
And-
even 20 if they didn't want to.
And they could just be there,
Hmm.
and it would be really nice. I was
Ah.
kind of thinking of that as we were driving over, and I also thought that if the remains are going to be viewed, and if someone had the perspicacity to prepare ahead of time, they could have photographs of themselves taken.
What
And,
are you talking about?
well, you could be photographed and put into this cardboard coffin.
Cardboard carton?
Cardboard coffin, excuse me. There's a big difference
Well,
in
now
price.
wait a minute. Let's not talk about cardboard coffins right yet. Just talk about coffins in general. I mean,
They're expensive.
they're expensive, but you can rent them. I believe that you can rent your coffin. I don't think you have. I mean, I don't think you have to be the first and only person in that coffin. I think other people could be in that coffin too. Earlier, of course,
Well,
not after you've gotten it, but you know.
If you're going to be cremated anyway,
It seems very foolish to cremate. I mean, what do they do with a coffin? They burn that up too? That seems ridiculous.
recycle it,
Well,
I
they
guess.
can't burn it up, otherwise it would be all mixed up with you.
It could be
So they
turned
must
into a
take you out of
coffee
the
table.
coffin. I've never seen anything happen in it. I know the crematoriums are very hot. Very hot
I
places.
think they're cool, actually, when you get right down to it. But now think about this. I mean, this is big.
Well, renting the coffin.
No, I'm not.
I know that's a, you can
Cardboard, and if people
do
can
that.
write on
Yes,
it.
yes,
and
you can
so
get it now.
long,
You can
sucker.
get
You know.
cardboard. You can
you
get a
know.
cardboard coffin, and particularly if you're going to be burnt up, it might as well
Right.
be burnt
No,
up with you.
no. And this is the whole idea of remains to be seen. You could be photographed au natural,
You're
And-
going to be photographed in the nude, are you saying?
au natural. Yes,
Au
we have
natural,
children
yeah.
watching, so we have to be very euphemistic.
How do you know?
Unless it's the late hour
I don't
show.
think children are interested in us.
Oh, you never can tell. you never
Certainly not
can
young
tell.
children.
And then we could be
They have
on.
grandparents of their own.
We could be on display. You know.
Who's a we? This
Well-
is not my idea. This is yours. Don't
Oh,
include me in
Au
your.
contraire. Now,
I
I
have
you,
no intentions of being viewed nude in my coffin.
why not?
Because it would be unseemly.
No, it wouldn't. I'll bet if
It would be unseemly.
I'll bet if this
I
cable
don't think my
station,
grandchildren would like it,
if this cable
or
station,
my great grandchildren for that matter.
if this cable station did a survey of listeners, I'll bet many listeners wouldn't really care, you know, and would be okay with that.
What, to be photographed and then put nude in the
Yeah, they have
a
nudist
nude
funerals.
photograph? They do?
Oh yes, they're big.
Ah, I don't believe
No,
you.
they have nudist funerals, I promise
I've
you.
heard of nudist weddings, but I have never heard of a nudist funeral.
Well, get ready.
You made that up.
No, it's
Yes,
the
you did.
21st
You
century.
made that up.
I like this idea. I think it's good. I think the media coverage for the first nudist funeral would be gigantic. And if it's you,
And what sort of ads would you have, I wonder?
and then your poetry could be read, you know.
It's not me, dear. We're not having a nudist funeral for me. That I assure you.
Why not? Oh, you're concerned for how people would
I
feel.
don't want my grandchildren seeing my naked body,
It's a beautiful body.
regardless.
It's
I
a
don't
wonderful
want my
body.
grandchildren viewing my naked body in my coffin.
I think
I
that's
don't want anybody viewing anybody in my coffin.
very
Mine or
small-minded.
anybody else's.
This is terribly small-minded of you.
Very, yes, I agree. Very small-minded. I don't mind a bit.
This
I will be small-minded.
this kills
in
the
this
whole
instance.
Facebook thing, you know,
The
of,
Facebook thing.
of getting closer. You know, social networking takes the worry out of being close. That was a commercial line for a soap,
They
wasn't it?
don't, yes.
Cashmere bouquet?
No,
or
it's not.
no,
It was,
ivory?
no, it was, what is it?
Jalapeno soap.
Body,
Doesn't matter.
Lifebuoy.
Lifebuoy? I don't know.
Lifebuoy takes the worry
The
out
worry
of
out of being close. Well, being nude and being, oh, this would be wonderful. Maybe the Pope would do it. You know, maybe some celebrities who are older and want to start a trend.
Movie
and
stars
be the
would
first.
probably be better than religious figures, dear. I don't know, people have, religious figures don't have as much credence as they used to.
They don't, do they?
Movie stars and oh, how about sports fans? Now, this could be the new thing for sports fans.
Yeah, athletes.
Athletes.
Yeah.
For athletes especially. I mean, athletes who wanted to set a trend could probably do it very nicely.
That way you'd get a look at somebody's rig, you know, and you'd really get to see.
Especially male athletes.
Male athletes, I bet people would like that.
They might.
People, big commercial market there.
On the other hand, sometimes when they show photographs like that, they just kind of blur the essential whatevers.
But they don't have to blur anything. I think we're doing.
They might want it blurred. They
We
might not
have-
want their packages on view.
We have a really good theme here for something that could be done. And I think we're starting a trend right here in town. And you folks out on the internet, you could think about this and talk about it at church or other social conventions. See how your minister feels about it, you know.
Nude funerals?
Nude funerals, nudist funerals.
Nudist funerals.
Yeah.
Yes, but darling, nudist funerals are for nudists specifically. We don't have to talk about everyday people that way.
But it remains to be seen, you see.
Yes, it does remain
It
to be
really,
seen. You're
really,
right.
it remains
There are
to be
remains
seen.
to be seen.
There are remains.
I don't want my remains seen.
You don't want your remains seen.
No, I don't.
Phooey.
No, I want to be burnt up, and I want people to have little bits of ashes in little bags that they can spread around on their gardens, and then I will help all the gardens grow, and that will make me happy.
Well, could you, if you're going to do that, which sounds awfully uncomfortable if one is between here and there, but could you have seeds put in with the ash so you could get cabbages or something as a result?
Yes, but if you're just going to sprinkle, I'd like to be sprinkled over the garden in general, and rather than have seeds for a specific, place.
But if you had seeds, like radish seeds or cabbage seeds, and
Well, if people want to add seeds, that's okay with me. I'm not going to object. If
I
people
think you
wanna
should
add
spring
seeds.
for the seeds.
No, I know. I think
Really?
they have to put in their own seeds.
They
because
might be too grief-stricken to think
no,
of that.
they will know what they want to plant. If they want to plant something along with planting me,
You should have us for dinner some night. We'll really entertain you. No bread, though.
we're going gluten-free.
We're
or at
going
least
gluten-free. We're
we're
giving
trying
up
to.
everything we like. We're giving up wheat.
trying to go.
We may not live any longer, but it'll feel like an eternity. And no, I think we're on to something.
No,
I really do.
Yeah.
I think this is big.
big.
This could be viral on the internet. All we need is one famous person to kick it off.
To kick off what? Nude funerals?
Remains to be seen. and it could be done online, and it would be massive. It would really be massive. I find this really
Of all the
possible.
people I know, I think you have the best ideas. They're really extraordinary, your ideas. You are a true idea person.
Well, it's just doing what comes naturally.
Good ideas.
I take that as a compliment, and I
What?
think.
Of course it's a compliment. What else would it be?
Well, it could be it could be a lot of
it could
things.
be only a
you know.
compliment.
Well, I feel good about this. It's pure.
What remains to be seen?
Yeah, it's pure, and it shows you in your purest, most real,
Unadorned?
element. Yes, unadorned. And grandchildren would be proud to say, "There's
No.
Grandma."
No, they wouldn't.
They wouldn't.
No, they wouldn't.
They'd hide their eyes.
Yeah, they'd be embarrassed.
Like,
They'd say, "Oh my God, look at Grandma." Awful thought.
well, it would depend. It would depend how much Grandma was paid for this.
Come on.
By the National
Paid
Casket,
by who?
the National Casket
No,
Company.
not in my cardboard box, dear.
Well,
If I'm going to be laid out in a cardboard box,
I just think it
the
would be.
National Casket Company is not going to be happy.
It would be very touching. It would be very, very touching. Tears of joy would come to one's eyes, especially if you got a big endowment for doing this.
Yeah, really. A big endowment.
A big endowment for doing this, that would go to the grandchildren. So if
Oh.
each grandchild were to receive, say, $500,000,
That still isn't going to make a difference.
they'd love it. They'd take the money and look at Grandma and wave.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they'd be hiding their eyes.
This isn't Adam and Eve getting kicked out
Not
of the
even
garden.
my grandchildren, but my children. Think of what my poor children would think.
They'd
Oh,
love it.
dreadful idea.
No, I don't think so. I think
Absolutely.
your children are a
Very
lot more
sure.
liberal than you give them credit for.
Well, darling, the next time we have a family gathering, you be sure and ask them these questions and see what sort of response you get. At one time, you suggested, and this was quite a few years ago, that you take a picture of all the women with no clothes on.
Nude, it's
Nude,
a
yes,
four-letter
and they were
word.
shocked, and they still talk about it.
Smiling.
No, not smiling, horrified.
Horrified. Oh.
Some of them were teenagers at the time.
This is what happens when you marry into a New England family. I mean, I'm sure if you were from California, this would be.
I don't know what they're like in California. Maybe
This is-
Denmark.
This is really California, what we're talking about here.
Uh-huh.
You know, this is
Ah.
this is a trendy thing. It would be wonderful.
Darling, it's
It's
a trendy
natural.
thing in your imagination. It hasn't happened yet.
That's why we need a
It can't very well
celebrity.
be trendy if it hasn't happened yet.
But if you did it, if when you go, you made
Darling,
you made
I
those
don't know
arrangements.
if I'm going to be the one to go. You're probably the first one to go. And besides, I thought you wanted to be stuffed. I believe you've talked about that in the past.
Well, I've been thinking of that, but no one wants me. I subtly suggested at dinner parties, like, you know, if I were to pass over and I was sent to a taxidermist and I became a lamp, would you like me in your home?
Mm-hmm.
And you say this with a very straight face in hopes that someone will be sympathetic, and people look at you oddly and you don't get invited back. And
Well,
it's, you know, I think now, though, a museum would be better than someone's home.
yes, but how do you have to give a large endowment to the museum if you want to be taken?
Jeremy Bentham didn't.
I'm sure he did.
He didn't have much. He was a philosopher.
But he was a well-known person. That made a difference too.
Well,
It's
I
not
have
as
to
though you're a
become.
well-known person.
I'll bet if I put this out on Facebook and asked if any of my friends or their friends would consider something like this, I'll bet the replies would be really, really amazing.
I'll bet the replies would be really interesting too. Yes, really.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, I wouldn't mind being buried in au naturel. You know, I think that'd be fine. That'd be funny.
Buried
It'd be
all
good.
natural.
Yeah. Well, and have an au natural service and then be cremated and have radish seeds added, because when they go into the garden and people would have radishes and they think of me.
And the radishes for taste of Stephen.
Yes, something like that. It would. Hey, we're really cooking. We're doing some good stuff today. I want to tell you. I hope your friend in New Zealand and Australia enjoys this.
Yeah. Well, I do. I do hope so too. I mean, some people say that death is no laughing matter, but I personally think that the older you get and the closer you get to it, the sillier it gets.
Well, I'm not afraid of death. Dying is what is. That's different. That's new.
Dying is different, yes.
That's
no.
scary,
Yeah.
you know.
The
when-
actual process of
The,
however it
the
may
slowing
turn out.
down,
Yeah.
you know. And I think once we're gone and seemingly we haven't gone far and we're there, if you and I were at one of our funerals and we spotted each other, it would be interesting. This is community television at its best. We discuss things here that you don't get on Jay Leno.
No, you don't. I don't think you do. I haven't heard about that.
And you certainly don't get it on Sports Center.
There's actually quite a strong movement, called something like "Take Back Our Dead" or "Let Us Take Back Our Dead."
Take them home?
For people to bypass funeral homes completely and do what, prepare the deceased and take take nice care of the deceased and get the deceased ready for burial or cremation or whatever you want. There is no law that, at least in Massachusetts, that you have to go to a funeral home.
No, you don't.
As long as you have a death certificate, it doesn't matter.
Just do me one favor.
And also, an allowed place to bury. You can't just go burying somebody in your backyard, as I understand it. You have to have some sort of a permission if you're burying a body. I don't know. I think if it's ashes, it doesn't matter. But if it's a body,
Well, I think you have to be sent to a crematorium. People don't have ovens like that. Usually,
you would have to pay
old
for the
Germans might,
cremation.
but you know.
But that would considerably cut down. I mean, funerals can be is it
$10,000,
very
$20,000,
expensive, very,
yeah.
and the coffins and things are very expensive. Personally, I think it's a terrible waste of money. That's like the way I feel about going to an expensive restaurant,
Yeah, yeah.
which is a terrible thing to say, but I mean, unless you consider it entertaining, as a form of entertainment, to sit and eat certain very expensive food and so forth.
So a McDonald's type funeral where you're lacerated in cheese prior
A
to
McDonald's funeral.
prior to or to
I wouldn't-
being.
I wouldn't think that cheese would be
Cremated.
part of the funeral.
I mean,
somehow.
it tastes good, and
Yes, but we're talking about a funeral now, not a feast.
well, okay, if you want
If
to.
you want a funeral feast and you want to go to McDonald's, that's okay with me. But frankly, it's not my idea of a feast.
No, I think we should take it up a notch. Maybe Burger King at least if we're going to do it, or Wendy's.
Or Wendy.
Wendy's.
Yeah.
They haven't had a change in their menu in 70 years or something. So I read something about that. So anyway, I think we're on to something really good, and I feel good about this. And I think people have got to start laughing about the afterlife and preparations for the afterlife. Otherwise, they'll be frightened and they'll repress the fear, and it'll come out in a million other ways.
You're probably right.
And I think it's the fear of death that is the big fear. And I think people need to get past that. And the best way I can think of getting past something so inevitable is by laughing.
Yeah.
And I'm dying to know you, kid. Really.
Oh, see you the next time.
Yeah. Is it time?
No.
Oh, next. Time's not up. Want more, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll give you more.
The next life, dear.
The next life.
Yes.
We have a choice. I'm going backwards. I don't want to go forwards. I don't even know how to.
know?
I don't even know how to work with that cell phone. I'd rather go back to something more classical.
Something where you ride along on your horse with your pistol by your side or whatever.
That would be interesting.
Oh, I don't know.
The Old West with
There
Wyatt
are a
Earp.
lot of diseases. You
Oh
know?
yeah, you got that. Lifespan is shorter.
Lifespan is a lot shorter, and a life is a lot harsher, and there aren't any nice facilities either, or things are rough and tough.
I think 100 years ago you had a greater dependency upon money than is today.
Really? Because
Today there's a certain amount of safety net to catch people,
Mm-hmm.
whereby 100 years ago, forget it. It's just.
Well, as the saying goes, the very poor have a safety net. And at one level they do, but it's not a very heavy safety net. And
I'll give it another 20, 30
30
years, and it'll
It
become
used to be
even
they had
better.
to go to a farm and work and
They had a lot of those.
Poor
out-
farm.
They had one in
poor
Rutland,
farm.
I believe.
Horrible thought. Ugh.
It might have been nice. They would all sit by the fire
no,
at
it didn't
night
work
and
like,
sing
I don't
folk
think it was
songs
nice at
and
all. I think they got to eat a lot of oatmeal.
go
We
out
wouldn't
and
like
hoe
that.
cabbages.
We don't like
I don't
oatmeal.
like it. Well, I would eat oatmeal if that was what was asked of me. But we're getting more into life, and we're looking at it the other way.
Yeah.
And I just think that people, when they can chuckle about taboos like nudity or death.
People always giggle when you mention nudity.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a giggleless subject.
But it's
Giggleful?
embarrassment. People get really embarrassed about, shedding their
Well,
cloth.
they're afraid they don't look nice. I mean, that's part of it too. And also, many people are brought up to be modest, or what passes for modesty, which means being clothed. I mean, you know.
I suppose recently there were Ukrainian women who went to a World Economic Conference and charged the conference in the nude. I saw that on the
Really?
internet. Yeah. These were models looking for roles in movies.
Oh.
I'm sure they weren't your typical mundane suburban
Yeah.
woman.
Yeah.
They were quite elaborately without.
Elaborately what?
Without.
How can you be elaborately without?
Oh, you can be very
If
elaborately
you're not
without.
wearing anything, where is the elaborate to find? Be
Pounds of makeup.
Oh.
Pounds of makeup, yeah.
Okay, makeup.
Wonderful hairstyle.
Hairstyles.
Yeah, really, really interesting stuff like
I'm
that.
sure people were all looking at that too.
Yes,
Most people were
I was,
probably
I,
not
I
looking
was
at the
just,
hairstyle and the
I
makeup.
was studying the hairstyle. I thought it was very interesting.
Do you want to be made up for this nude photo that you are going to have in your preparations?
Well,
for
I think
remains?
a beard trim
To
would
be
be
seen?
nice, and little that would be
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Get a haircut,
Yeah.
Get Miss Tammy to come and work on me.
Well, I'll
The
think about
last
it.
shave, as it were.
I'll think. Okay.
I mean, I'll go there. I'll do this if you,
You
don't.
would. You would. You have no inhibitions whatsoever.
If
you would.
you don't want to, it's your karma,
No, I
as they
don't.
say.
I
You
don't.
don't.
I don't
you
want to,
don't, You
no,
don't want
uh-uh.
to. Okay. So it's got to be me. Nobody will see.
I'm not at all sure I'm going to do it either. I don't want our grandchildren. They are our grandchildren. I don't want our grandchildren going, "Oh my God, that's Grandma!"
Well, my son would cheer me on.
Oh yeah, really.
He'd be very pleased about this, and
Let alone the children. No.
our good friends,
I'm not
yes,
sure.
our good friends would take it with a grain of
I'm
salt.
not sure.
That's what we could do. We give everybody a grain of salt when they go into the event, and people go, "What are they giving us a grain of salt for?"
Until
and-
they see this coffin with this photograph of the nude Stephen inside.
Yes, and you go. Then they take that grain of salt and they dab it on their tongue, and it would be
Sort of like a communion event.
a communal event. Yes,
No, communion.
no communion.
A salt
Yes,
communion.
a
yeah.
salt communion.
Oh
Yes,
my goodness.
that would be great.
You have the most amazing ideas.
Well, I just think we need to loosen up on here. And
You would like to loosen people up. I know you.
it happens. You live longer. You're happier.
I
A little
agree.
beau vivant.
I agree.
And
I agree.
little c'est la vie.
Oh my goodness.
We have 1 minute. I gotta kiss you. Great. Great.
Remember the book, A Kiss Before
Should I
Dying?
start now? No. I'm glad you're amused by all this.